What's up, guys? Teacher Paul over here, and today we have a coffee request. This is from Maria, and Maria says, "This is a video I often recommend to my friends to watch. This incident happened half a year before I started on my maritime specialized education. So it got talked about a lot while I was at school. I'm not going to say any more than that. Don't want to spoil it for you. This is the Cost of Concordia by Internet Historian. Guys, if you want to watch the video without my commentary, go over to the link that is in the description. This is from the channel Internet Historian, and first time watching it, let's check this out. We're live right now on Twitch also, and you can buy me a coffee just like Maria did if you want to request a video. Okay, we're gonna go this one. Yeah, that's fine. Let's go.
The Cost of Concordia, ship of dreams. It's been 8 years. I can still smell the buffets from their 5 restaurants. The casino and 3-story theater had hardly been used.
That looks pretty dope.
The gym, the day spa, the sheets in 1,500 luxurious cabins hadn't even been slept in. Cost of Concordia cost $570 million to build.
What?
And you could tell.
Okay, so Concordia is the name of the ship. I think we've established that then, yeah? $570 million to build that. Thank you so much for the coffee. This was from Lena. Thank you so much, Lena.
Really tell.
The Cost of Concordia. So that's a cruise ship. Fun fact, guys, after I got married, our honeymoon was going to a cruise ship. We got it as a present. First time ever and only time ever in a cruise. Pretty cool. All you can eat. That was nice.
I remember it like it was just a few years ago. We had left Civitavecchia, a port in Rome, and we were making our way to Savona. It was day 2 of our 7-day journey. But
Civitavecchia. Old city?
Cursed. Oh my God. When she premiered, the traditional bottle of champagne bounced right off the side instead of smashing. A bad omen, but I'm not the superstitious type. Nothing could go wrong on Friday the 13th of January 2012, on the 100th year anniversary of the Titanic.
What?
On a ship that's also only safety rated for 2-compartment flooding, especially not when you have a 5-star max level captain like Francisco Scatino, a man who mysteriously rose from head of security to the position of captain within just a couple of years. He knows exactly what to do in case of an emergency. For example,
yo, wait a second. How did he research all of this? Obviously, this was after whatever happened, he researched, but before, I don't think he knew that, right?
when he caused this emergency in 2008 when he crashed into a port in Sicily, and in 2010 in Warnemünde, Germany, when he was steering a different ship and came into port too fast and caused another collision.
How does he still have a
I've got a good feeling about this. So let's set the scene. It's a beautiful evening. People are having fun on the slides, drinks at the bar. Antonio Magnotta is playing piano at the restaurant. Martin the Magician is setting up for his show. And the ship is setting up for a little detour. It's called a sail-by salute. Basically, you get real close to the shore and honk the horn. The locals hate it, but the customers love it, and it's a tradition. Scatino, the captain, comes into the dining hall with the lady, Dominica Samorton.
Can you imagine that happening every time? Every time? Yeah, the locals must really hate it.
Remember this face, because you'll be seeing a lot of it later. Scatino eats his dinner with her and socializes for a little while. Then he, Dominica, and the maitre d' finish up and excuse themselves. They're heading to the bridge. It's time for that sail-by salute. This time, they're going to get closer than ever. Just 1,500 feet from the island of Giglio. And how are they going to determine this distance? Well, of course, the captain is going to eyeball it. Apparently, it's not an uncommon thing to do. Scatino turns to the fella steering, his helmsman, Jacob Ruslibin.
Is it normal to
First
eyeball
interesting tidbit. Cost of Concordia has
distance?
hired Jacob from Indonesia at a rock bottom price, and he's a bit of a newbie to the job. In fact, his profession hitherto, a painter and a cleaner. It's his first time steering a massive ship, and he's very excited. At least, we think he is. It's hard to tell because he doesn't speak English or Italian very well at all.
What?
Off to a good start. The second in command orders the helmsman to 290. Now, don't be confused by these numbers, they're just the degrees on a compass. At the same time, the captain whips out his cell phone and calls former captain Mario Palombo, who lives on the island. They chat about the safe distance to Giglio's shores. It's all very casual. Anyway, Mario says that the safe distance is between 0.3 and 0.4 miles from shore. The captain is going all in. This is not his first sail by salute, so he's confident in what he's doing. We're going closer than we've ever been before. The
Why?
captain's eyeballing it again. New heading of 300, he tells the helmsman. Downstairs, Martin is about...
Dude, honestly, like if the guy doesn't speak English very well, it's very hard. I mean, it's very easy to get confused with the numbers like 30 and 13, 40, 14, stuff like that.
out to cut his assistant in half. And of course, that means that there's already a lady inside this box. She's waiting for the cue, and then she'll poke her legs out. The captain is giving more orders. Pulling gently to 310. Increase speed to 16 knots. Going this fast is going to be a
16.
fatal error.
Could have been 60.
But before we talk about that, let's talk about another big problem. Language barrier. Because at
That's
this
what I'm
point, the
saying.
captain says 325, but the helmsman relays 315. So the first officer intervenes, and he goes, no, 335. Which
What?
is also wrong. And then the captain clarifies, no, 325. The helmsman confirms 325. Their poor communication has them moving at a much wider angle than they think they are. However, the captain should and would know this, except for the next problem, complacency about procedure. The standard procedure of a ship this large is for the third officer to give exact positional coordinates every time the captain gives a new directional order. But they're not doing that.
Oh no.
330, he says. The helmsman relays 330. The ship reaches 16 knots. The captain then turns to the second officer and instructs him to go to the left wing. That's these things here, and they basically exist so you can get a better view over the whole vessel.
This is not gonna end well.
A few seconds pass, and then the mood starts to turn. Scatino notices white foam of waves breaking against the rocks directly in front of him in the
He's
distance.
already there.
The Cost of Concordia right now is almost 700
Wow.
meters closer to the rocks than it should be. Without deviation, there is going to be a direct collision.
Oh my gosh.
Scatino immediately commands the ship to start turning away. 335. Not enough. The captain shouts, 340.
Slow down
The
though.
captain yells, 350.
Can't he slow down?
Now, remember how I said that accelerating to 16 knots was a fatal error? Well, that's because it's made this ship incapable of such a drastic turn. What they've got is understeer. Here's an example.
The front end is not working. You're turning.
Like
and you're just
drifting.
going straight. You want to go over here, but you're going to end up over here.
So despite the order of 350, right now the bow is still only pointing at 327. Not nearly enough to miss the
Wow, bro.
And oh no, it's about to get worse. That language barrier again. In these
No,
critical
no.
moments where every second counts, the helmsman wrongly relays 340. The captain snaps back, 350 starboard or we end up on the rocks. The third officer goes to assist the helmsman. Now, don't get confused by the orders from here. We're changing over to rudder instructions. The captain yells, starboard 10, starboard 20, and still it's not enough. Hard to starboard. That means as hard as it'll go. But at this point, even if they clear these rocks, they need to get the rest of the ship to swing around it. So the captain yells, midship, which centers the rudder. The bow is now less than
Dude, this is
150
crazy.
meters from Skull Rock.
What?
Port 10. But the helmsman only gets to port 5 before another order is given 2 seconds later. Port 20. They might just avoid disaster here, maybe. But then, oh no. One more time, the helmsman cocks up at the worst possible moment. The helmsman goes to starboard instead of port.
Oh no,
undoing
right
the
instead of
swing.
left.
8 seconds later, he realizes the error and corrects, but it's too late. He has just turned a probable near miss into a sure hit. All they can do now is
my
hold on as
gosh.
the bow of the ship narrowly passes by the rocks. Hard to port! The second officer yells, "We're gonna hit!"
Dang.
Collision.
Dude, that's crazy. That's crazy. And by the way, I just realized that the Cost of Concordia is a wordplay because the name of the ship is Costa Concordia, which means host Concordia. Bro. 3, or let's say 2 inexperienced guys and 1 crazy captain. Slowing down would take time.
Downtown, Nordtown. It's day 56 of playing Russian roulette. Seems I never win.
Gonna drink all by yourself?
Somebody has to.
I hear you're a man who's good at finding folks.
I'm many things.
I'm looking for
this
this
an ad?
fella. I got to
Should I
find
skip the
him.
ad?
It's breaking my little heart.
I'll see what I can do. I have contacts in thousands of servers in dozens of countries across the globe.
This is so good
And
that I
just like
didn't
that,
even realize that it
she
was
was
an ad.
gone. The only thing she left was a calling card. Sometimes when you follow a case, it follows you back. NordVPN can protect my online data. But who can protect me? From myself. When they said this job gets
This
easier,
is such a good
it was
ad.
just another lie. Forensics found his password spread all the way down the block. In a perfect world, we'd all use NordVPN.
That's
But
a
I
good ad,
guess
though.
This isn't that kind of story. I took the brakes off my car. Man like me never really learned how to stop. Shut the fuck up. I took the
He's
steering wheel out
laughing.
too. I let the road take me where I'm supposed to be. That's right, Toots. Your husband's dead. Merry Christmas.
Dude, this guy is so funny.
Go to nordvpn.com/internet historian for a huge discount on the 2-year plan. Ad over. The ship hits rocks on the port side. A 53-meter gash opens up in the hull, and thousands
how-
of tons of water
how-
begin pouring in.
How big was that?
Meter gash on the port side.
50?
A 53-meter gash opens up in the hull, and thousands of tons of water begin pouring in.
That's
A
crazy.
loud scraping and bang is heard by all passengers. At the helm is panic. Rumblings in the dining room. Martin awkwardly pauses his act as he's helping his assistant into the box. Meanwhile, the lady inside is trapped and terrified. There's confusion across the ship. All of the crew off shift come back on duty. All officers run to the bridge. Technical crews run down to the lower decks to assess damage. On connection with the rocks, they lose propulsion and slow to 8.3 knots. And they are now adrift. Close the watertight doors at stern.
This is so
Enormous
crazy.
volumes of water are pouring in. So much so that within 29 seconds of collision, all 6 engines stop working through flooding.
29 seconds.
22 seconds later, a blackout happens.
Bro, it happened
Lights,
so
electrics,
fast.
The water pumps too. Everything. The captain orders the helmsman hard starboard. This is the final position of the rudder before power to that too is lost. The Cost of Concordia, now without power, is drifting starboard, plunged into absolute darkness.
That's mad.
A quick breakdown of the flooding. When the Concordia struck land, it tore open 3 watertight compartments. At first, compartment 5, which filled very rapidly. Then 6 more slowly, 4 shortly after.
Dude,
Then
this
7,
was
8,
human
3.
mistake.
Modern ships are built to withstand 2 compartment breaches. These compartments especially, though, are a problem because they contain the engines and the electrics. These main generators give power to the whole ship. From propulsion motors to rudder to hotel functions, pretty much everything. When they went out, the ship was a functionless, sinking cage. A few seconds later, the emergency batteries for internal
wonder if they got
lighting
sued.
indicators kick on. When the lights come back on, Martin has vanished. He's ditched the stage. And it caused a huge
Magician.
panic in the theatre as passengers are trying to flee to their cabins and to muster stations. People already in their cabins come out and start putting on life vests. Staff rally and try to calm everyone down. Everything is fine. There's no need for vests. Please return to
Is
your
this
cabins.
actual footage?
The emergency
Actual-
generator starts.
Actual footage?
All of the watertight doors close except for door 12, which is jammed. The captain calls Pilon, the chief engineer, as the ship begins to list on the port side. There's water coming in? Yes, there's water. But where? The engine room. But a lot of water? Yes! There's water, you
course.
can't go down. Let's go down the other side. In a moment we'll start the pumps, I'll let you know. In the theatre, the whole magic box apparatus slides right off the stage and falls into the crowd, further increasing panic. On the bridge, an announcement is being prepared. They are going to lie to prevent a panic. Let's just say we have a blackout. The deputy chief engineer enters the engine control room. He confirms to the bridge that at least compartments 5, 6, and 7 are flooded. Announcements are made.
On behalf of the captain, to inform you that due to an
That's
electrical
crazy.
fault, which is currently under control, we're currently in a blackout. Our technicians are working to resolve the situation and will inform you of developments as they occur. Thank you for your attention.
Yeah, he sounded very
Coincidentally,
calm.
At the same time, in the restaurant, they're playing "My Heart Will Go On," and it's very much
No,
not
they
helping the
didn't.
situation. The captain calls the Cost of Crisis unit, Roberto Ferrarini. He tells the crisis unit that
And that's
they've had a
actual
rock,
audio too?
that they're assessing damages and that they are also in a blackout. The crisis office says to reverse the ship up onto shore. Well, how are you going to do that? You don't have power to the rudder, let alone the engine. You know, hoist the sails? Anyway, around this time, the wind direction creates a starboard list, and the ship begins to turn anyway, drifting right back towards the shore, which is a very good thing because you want the ship to end up as close to shore as possible.
Yeah, okay.
A panicked passenger senses that something is off. This isn't like any electrical problem that she's ever seen. Plus, there was a massive crashing noise, and now the ship is tilting. So, she contacts her daughter in Italy. The daughter then calls the police, and the
Oh,
police
wow.
call the harbour master. While that goes on, a conversation between Pilon and Ambrosio. The diesel is not starting. The captain asks the engine room, but where have we made contact? Thinking that the incoming water can be reduced. Captain, here everything is lost. The electrical panel, everything. They're saying at this point that the ship is going down.
Dude, it's like the captain
calls
didn't
Roberto
understand.
Ferrarini again. Actually, 2 compartments have been flooded, but don't worry, the ship's stability isn't in danger. Wrong. Passengers begin going to muster stations on their own initiative. The
He's
cruise
in
director says,
denial.
"We have a lot of people at muster stations that I do not want to fall overboard. Do we make an announcement to tell them to go to the lounges?" Bozio says, "I think that's best." The harbour master from Livorno calls the ship. The captain tells them that we just have a blackout. How long has this blackout been going on? About 20 minutes. Have you asked passengers to put on life vests? It's just a blackout. I gotta go. The harbour master.
And he's
is
still
suspicious.
lying.
He says to his superiors that he thinks something more is going on. He calls a patrol boat to the area and asks them to look at the ship. Another problem. The fan on the emergency diesel generator isn't working properly.
That's crazy.
Elon
He could have cost so many people's lives. I mean, he has to get emergency services there immediately. And he's trying to solve the problem by himself.
manually has to turn the thing on and off with a screwdriver so that it doesn't overheat and cause a fire. The captain is on the phone to the lower decks asking pointless questions like, is it still flooded? Yes. Yes, it is. The captain is essentially in
Where do you think the
denial of
water's going?
situation. The harbour master calls again. Finally, he says, the ship is taking on water through an opening in the left side and the ship is listing. He qualifies with, no one dead or injured. The harbour master asks if he needs help.
Yes.
Tugboat? When in reality, they need a full rescue. With 3 compartments flooded, the captain finally realizes that things are really bad and they are not going to improve.
What is wrong with this
The Coast Guard orders
captain?
every available ship to the sea. Meanwhile, Meanwhile, up with the passengers, the cruise director's assistant says, everything's under control. Please return to your cabins or hang about in the lounges. No problem. She said
Evacuate.
this despite knowing it was wrong and that it further endangered lives. Most passengers at this point, though, aren't listening to this nonsense, and they're busy figuring out how to abandon ship. Bang, 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 bang. Local television has already picked up the story, and they begin broadcasting live radio feed from the bridge.
Wow.
Captain,
The media is
passengers are going
faster
on
than
board
the
boat.
rescue team.
Okay, let them go to shore. So then general emergency? Wait, let me talk to Ferrarini. We risk the emergency generators that do not
this
have
was on
cooling.
TV
It has cooling
live?
problems. 100 degrees. The cooling fan has stopped. Pilon calls the bridge and tells the safety officer they need to evacuate. The safety officer relays this to the captain, but after no response, he orders the engine room to evacuate on his own. The captain says, "No, stay. We're leaving." So what do? General emergency?
Bro, I'm getting angry at this captain.
The captain tells Ferrarini that he's abandoning ship. Abandon ship. Another announcement is made.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please. The situation is under control. Please remain
Under
calm.
control.
At this time, proceed to your muster station. They're located outside on deck 4.
The Livorno Coast Guard calls again. The captain declares distress. The Coast Guard officially calls for rescue operations. They contact Pietro Mille, the helicopter base commander, who then calls in every available pilot. As he rushes down to the helicopter base, Pilon shuts down the emergency generator for the final time. The first rescue vessel arrives.
There
By this
we
point,
go.
The lifeboats are already going. Luckily, the ship is very close to shore. Oh, perhaps too close to shore. The ship forcefully runs aground,
Oh, wow.
creating an uneven center of gravity, and it begins heavily listing starboard. The captain issues a general emergency on board. The announcement to abandon ship is finally called and alarms ring out, and with that comes panic.
Dude, he took
And now
too
that they're
long.
listing, with many of the lifeboats too awkwardly positioned to enter the water, there aren't enough readily available, and they have to start going back and forth to the shore, picking people up and dropping them off. The patrol boats report to the Livorno harbour master that the ship has run aground. And
I
is
hate this
listing
captain.
heavily. So the harbour master asks the captain about it, and the captain says, no, the ship is still floating. In fact, we're trying to maneuver it onto the shore. They know he's
I
lying.
hope he lost his license.
The captain then says to bottom out the starboard anchor. So they drop out the anchors, but let out too much chain, effectively rendering them useless. The deputy mayor of Giglio, Mario Pellegrini, and tobacco shop owner Giovanni
did
Rossi
everything wrong.
arrive at the harbour. They watch the scene unfold. As the first of the lifeboats arrive on shore, the deputy mayor takes the initiative and races to board one of the lifeboats, returning to the ship, and starts trying to find someone in charge. He gives up and starts helping passengers. Scatino tells everyone to leave and take radios, but not before changing out of his uniform and into a nice suit. Priorities. Dimitri Christidis and Silvia Coronica leave with him. The maitre d' and Sir Morton both get out of there. By this point, approximately 300
Whoa.
people are still on the ship. Millet reaches the helicopter base. The first helicopter, a slow-moving Augusta Bell, was already rising from the tarmac for the hour-long flight south.
It was totally on its side
Fazio is the
by this
last
time.
crew member left on the bridge, coordinating evacuation. He then leaves to help passengers board lifeboats. The bridge is now abandoned. And then, the ship's
240.
black box stops working. Apparently there were technical problems with it.
What?
That means, from here, things are going to get a little foggy in detail. A while later, rescue
How did it
helicopters
stop
arrive,
working?
But they're struggling to find the ship because they're expecting it to
Isn't the black box supposed to like survive every single thing? Isn't it? Do you think it could manually have been tampered with or no?
still be well above water. Passengers are scaling down the port side by ladder as lifeboats return to pick them up.
This is no joke. Oh my goodness. It was no joke, mi amor. Yes.
You're not allowed to make a film
I'm
movie.
allowed.
Who say you are?
A second helicopter. A
Is that what she's worried about?
The ship stops
Who
healing.
said
and
she's
comes to a
not
final
allowed?
resting
He's not
place.
allowed to.
Now the Coast Guard calls the captain because he's just learned that the captain has abandoned ship. The captain claims, no, actually I slipped and I fell into one of the lifeboats. I'm a klutz. But now that I'm on board, I may as well head back to shore. DeFalco tells
Wait, He abandoned ship and then he said he slipped and fell into a lifeboat. Well, lucky him, huh? Dude, I don't even want him to lose his license. I want him to go to jail now. That's criminal what he did.
The captain to get the fuck back on board. And the captain kind of acts confused and then effectively refuses. So the captain makes it to shore. From here, we only have mainstream news reports to rely on, so it's not going to be super accurate.
The name is
They say that
VDR?
Giglio's police chief then finds 110 survivors on the rocks at Point Gabbianara. And among them is the captain. It's not known whether the captain helped anyone while he was there, and in fact, the police chief claimed that he just sat on the rocks and watched other people do the rescuing.
Dude, I
A while
absolutely
later, a rescue boat picks up the
hate this
captain and takes
captain.
him to the harbor. He speaks to the police. He then finds the ship's onboard chaplain, Father Rafael Molina, and cries to him for about 15 minutes. Then he goes to the harbor master's office to
That's
receive
ridiculous,
probably
man.
the biggest dressing down of his entire life. Port
Amen to
authorities
that.
ask the taxi driver to take the captain back to his hotel. The captain takes the 30-second cab ride to the Bahamas hotel. According to the cabbie, he was beaten like a dog. He was cold and afraid. He only asked me where he could buy a pair of fresh
he was
socks.
beaten.
But then he perked right up again and gave an interview to a news crew. He told them that he was the last to leave.
Ooh, look at his
The captain
face.
is usually the last to abandon ship. What happened, Captain?
Siamo stati gli ultimi da
We were the last to leave the ship.
Liar.
All day Saturday, rescuers searched for people on the ship. On Sunday morning, a South Korean couple is found
They used the actors from Parasite. Oh, they used the actors from Parasite. That's funny. Assuming, obviously, you know, we always need to give the benefit of the doubt. Assuming that this is all true, that captain, man, I hate him so much right now. You don't do that. He caused it, and then he abandoned ship. Dang. And then he left everyone else to rescue, and he almost cost so many people their lives.
in their cabin, safe but shivering. They had slept through the crash and woke up unable to exit their cabin.
Wow.
The last survivor, Manrico Giampandroni, was found with a broken leg. He was the cabin's service director. In the end, 32 people died. The final body wasn't discovered
What?
until nearly 3 years later. A crew member, Russell Rebello, and it's believed that he died a hero helping passengers off the ship.
No
The
way.
Cost of Concordia was the
I thought nobody had died. But then when he said the last survivor, and it still said there was a count of people on board, I was like, oh no, some people must have died. 34 people died. That is horrible, man.
largest cruise ship disaster since the Titanic. And then there's the ship. This is what happens to a 110,000-ton cruise liner when it's left half rolled over in the ocean.
Dude, whoa.
Wasn't discovered until nearly 3 years
Let's
later.
look at that again.
A crew member, Russell Rebello, and it's believed that he died a hero helping passengers off the ship. The Cost of Concordia was the largest cruise ship disaster since the Titanic.
That's crazy, man.
And then there's the ship. This is what happens to
Wow.
a 110,000-ton cruise liner when it's left half rolled over in the ocean.
Which cost $500 million. See, guys, it doesn't matter how much it costs. Nothing is forever. $500 million. And this is what's left of it. And 34 people died because of that captain's mistake.
But this isn't
Horrible.
the end. It's just a halfway point. What most people know is that the Costa Concordia had crashed, many
Halfway
dead,
point.
and that the captain abandoned ship like a coward. But there's a whole veritable spaghetti of details to untangle. Let's dive in.
Oh no,
they
don't
are.
do that.
The deets.
Can't believe he did that just for that bit. Looting?
Blue box time. The Cost of Concordia was more than just a floating resort. There's a mall, a casino, cha-ching, cha-ching. This iron chest was full of safes and cash registers and expensive fittings. And there were plenty of gamers prepared to sneak by authorities and try their luck in the hot zone.
What?
Within days, police divers reported that valuable items, once seen lying around the ship, were now missing.
That's crazy.
High-end liquor, expensive furniture, dining sets, cash from the casino, cash registers, jewelry and display cabinets, safes, Japanese woodblock prints by famous 18th century artists, as well as the iconic bell, which hung from the bridge of the ship. It was never found.
Dude, wait a second. You're telling me that people were invested in snorkeling or whatever, scuba diving and stealing stuff? Dude, that's crazy. That's crazy how people, what lengths people will go to steal. And sometimes it's more effective than the actual rescue team. I mean, they only found a body like 3 years later. It's crazy.
Bell, which hung from the bridge of the ship. It was never found. Who steals a big fuck-off bell? Even the server admins were getting involved. 4 divers who were part of the company contracted to refloat the Concordia were spotted on CCTV, sneaking out to the ship.
Wow.
The patrol boat was dispatched, and the men were caught inside the fancy suites with rucksacks full of stolen goods. The 4 men are charged with stealing and thieving.
That's
and pinching. Later on,
crazy,
stolen as
though.
well as legitimate items found their way to Amazon and eBay. Chips from the casino, postcards, and cabin access cards became highly sought after souvenirs.
It even has a water.
Wait, you're telling me that you're telling me that they stole it and they sold it on eBay? Not even the black market or whatever, deep web or whatever, but eBay? Not even in Craigslist. Dude, wow.
Some Australian guy even made a listing for the ship itself, advertising it as buyer to collect.
Buyer
And
to
although
collect.
there were plenty of bidders, eBay pulled the plug.
Obviously.
I know
Oh,
Ulysses
many
Coutinho
of the
go to
stuff
jail,
was
and we'll get to
survivors.
that.
Okay.
But first, we have to talk about someone else.
He went to jail. Great.
Dominika Samorton.
That was a close one.
There was speculation that she was on the bridge that evening because she was the captain's mistress.
Oh, I should have known.
Intense media speculation reports that her presence distracted the captain.
They both denied their love for years and maintained that they were just friends. Although she did later admit to the media that she found him handsome. And how could you not?
You so fucking precious when you smile.
But she says there was no romantic link between them.
Some people would like to believe, they want to know I have something with him. It's more interesting. It's like, you know, some spicy in the story.
Miss Samorton also
Why is she acting
loved
like
the
a celebrity or whatever?
and took several interviews. But as the pressure mounted upon her, she began making ominous threats to Schettino, saying he must confess, and that you have but 1 week to come clean. But things from here get weird.
Spicy.
Samorton is a bit of a wild card. In a subsequent interview, she claimed a helicopter came to the ship well before the other rescue craft to take.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, Maria. She's loving the attention. She doesn't feel. It doesn't look like she's someone who was partly responsible or had a duty to do, or it doesn't feel like she has any remorse or whatever. You know, I don't know. I don't want to judge her, but dang, that is people died.
Take away a package. Huh? And what was that package? Drugs, apparently.
What?
So rumors began that the ship was running narcotics for the mafia.
What?
And not without cause. A number of cruise ships, even recently, have been caught trafficking drugs. As an aside, Scatino was tested for drugs immediately after
The hole
crash.
is deeper
He
than I
tested
thought.
negative for drugs in his system, but trace amounts of cocaine were found in a hair sample.
Oh my gosh.
And less dry.
Nonetheless, the Concordia was searched and no drugs
Hi,
were
Crowsmar.
reportedly ever found. How did we get here? Oh, right, a helicopter. Sir Morton commented on it again the next day.
Dude, that's
Said,
crazy.
Actually, that helicopter was just for the captain as a means of evacuation from the ship. Okay, wait. So she expected to get some sort of first-class rescue while everyone else was still stuck on the ship? Wait, how
That's
did we
mad.
get here? Oh, right, sex with the captain. Divers were quick to head to the
That's
captain's
mad.
cabin where they found Miss Sir Morton's lingerie and other articles of clothing as well as a makeup bag. The jig was up, but they continued denying it. Sir Morton mostly faded from international attention until she was told
Thank
to
goodness.
appear before the court to present witness testimony.
No, don't give her the
judge pressed her to
attention.
be truthful about their relationship, or she would be held in contempt.
Either tell me the truth or shut up.
So finally, she admitted it.
Yes, I had a sentimental relationship with the captain.
Obviously.
But now, stop asking about my private life.
She was indeed the captain's lover.
What is up, Trouble Alert
Trouble
Nation?
Alert.
Scatino cheated on his wife with Seymour Tan. Oh my God!
She and Scatino had been having an affair for several weeks. She also said that on the night she boarded, she didn't have a ticket.
Ticket, please.
And didn't
This
need to pay
captain
because nobody questions you
is
when
a
you're the
scumbag.
captain's lover. Naturally, she gave another confusing interview after leaving court.
I want to say that today is the second time I die because the first time I died in the night of the crash with my psychological brain and problems. And today I died the second time because, of course, people find out something that I try to hide.
Subsequent to the trial, she used
You
her
are the
fame
one
in
who-
Moldova to become a political activist.
People didn't find out anything. You're the one who came out and just to put your dirty laundry out there. Dude, that's crazy. The fact that she's victimizing herself because people found out the truth because she said she told the truth. That's mad. Oh, this is absolutely insane.
Often appearing on television and radio and in articles covering protests, accompanied by pictures of her being arrested by police.
Dude, she's acting like such a socialite. She's acting like, like it's a reality show. She's completely taking advantage of the whole situation, of a tragedy, so that she can get the attention and be in the media and spotlight. That's crazy. That's why we don't shed spotlight on these type of people. And I honestly hope the captain didn't get any spotlight either. And you know what's crazier? When these things happen, people get book deals, people get movie deals, people get rich off of tragedy. It's insane.
Articles covering protests, accompanied by pictures of her being arrested by police.
You're being arrested, and you're resisting arrest. What are you gonna do? You're gonna run from the police?
It was some stuff about victims of violence, women's rights,
Girl power.
yada yada yada. And interestingly, part of a push to block the sale of shares of Moldova's train network to Russia.
Sure.
Other than that, I don't really know what she's been up to. Let me just check on her Oh God, not again.
Maybe she's not there to work, hopefully. Lawsuits, yes.
Several civil suits were quickly lodged against Cost of Concordia, and their parent company, Carnival Cruises, immediately saw a share drop of 23%.
Yes. I know it's not going to bring back the people's lives, but, whatever we can do or they can do, they should do.
Passengers sought compensation for their damaged mental health, lost belongings, and loved ones.
Either they allowed him to divert from his course, or they didn't know where their billion-dollar ship was.
Within a few days, facing financial and media pressure, the CEO attempted to join the bandwagon against the captain and the crew.
That was not the ordinary route that the ship was taking at the time, and was not only taking, but the time the ship was...
Junior! Claiming that the ship was not approved to deviate from the route. But that wasn't true. Approval isn't required if the ship is deviating by less than 15 miles, or that it was against company rules. Also untrue, because investigators found that they didn't have any rules about deviating route, and they tacitly encouraged sail-by salutes. Now, in response to the civil suits, Cost of Concordia offered passengers €11,000 each as compensation.
That's it?
That's kind of small.
It is.
€11,000, about $14,000.
Wait, dollars were higher than euro back then? When was this? Wait, what? Wait, let me see that again. Did he say 11,000?
Deviating by less than 15 miles, or that it was against company rules. Also untrue, because investigators found that they didn't have any rules about deviating route, and they tacitly encouraged sail-by salutes. Now, in response to the civil suits, Cost of Concordia offered passengers €11,000 each as compensation.
Okay, yeah. I mixed up the numbers. 11,000 euros is 14,000. Yeah, okay. Euro is stronger than the dollar. I just got mixed up there. But dude, I like for that ship, how much did they spend? Like, what was the ticket? Must have been like what, 2,000, 3,000? That's crazy. That's the amount that they thought people would be happy with for compensation. That's like 3 trips or 4 trips to go on a cruise this size.
It's kind of small.
€11,000, about $14,000, is the minimum compensation under international law when a ship is abandoned.
This was to reimburse them for their tickets, as well as any costs they accrued in having to unexpectedly travel home early.
And that was supposed to release them from everything and anything that has to do with this accident.
That's an absurd
ask for more than
offer.
this.
A lot of passengers, understandably, were not too happy with this deal, and they refused to take the money.
We think the offer is an insult to
what
these poor passengers went through. We think that the compensation being offered is not commensurate.
And this is a class action lawsuit, so they can get much more, in the millions, and bankrupt the company, which sucks if you bankrupt the company because, you know, they don't get the money.
Compensation being offered is not commensurate.
Later, Cost of Concordia would lodge a plea deal with the Tuscany court to pay a €1 million fine to avoid a criminal trial. The
Per
judge
passenger?
agrees. Cost of Concordia is now off the hook for all criminal liability for the whole thing. They've washed their hands of the incident and flecked the residual droplets of responsibility onto the faces of 6 staff members. Passengers and relatives of the dead are livid that the company has been able to avoid criminal responsibility.
Offered is not commensurate.
Civil suits against the company continue. By the way, the residents of the island of Giglio also banded together and sought damages. They didn't get much. Eventually, passengers who refused the initial compensation of $11,000 joined civil parties against Scatino in his trial in 2015.
It's not commensurate.
They were awarded €30,000 each. Other cases, especially those involving lost relatives, are settled for undisclosed amounts.
Dude, that captain shouldn't have even been able to have his license after those 2 initial incidents. It's crazy that he can still, drive, or is it drive? I think that's how you call it, right? Drive a ship this big.
New York attorney Peter Renee traveled to Budapest to represent 6 real survivors of the disaster.
At Renee & Renee, we personally work on every case.
And we'll work harder than anyone to get you the most money possible in the shortest amount of time.
And while on the job, a 7th case
look who's here,
via
Asmongold. You know, the funny thing is, when I searched the Cost of Concordia, Asmongold had reacted to this. So I wonder how he reacted to seeing himself as a meme here.
An elderly woman, Alona, said,
"Help me, Mr. Ronai, for I have lost my daughter, Eva, and my 5-year-old granddaughter, Roxana."
So Mr. Ronai agreed to speak with her. However, there were some inconsistencies in her story. Neither Eva nor Roxana were on the passenger list.
Sail the ship, pilot the ship. Okay, sorry about
Pastor
that.
is known for having stowaways.
Gotcha, bitch!
Still, Mr. Ronai was suspicious. They wouldn't cheaty old Petey, would they? Renai inquired further about why she was on board, especially without a ticket. Ilona said,
"Well, I don't know, but you should ask her boyfriend.
Zolt Horvath.
He'll know all the details."
I'm up all night. I'm going crazy, he said. But Mr. Renai was still suspicious. Because then she asked, how much money do you think this is worth?
Wow.
This is a huge red flag, Petey. In 20 years of doing this, you've never had anyone ask about money. Why now? So Mr. Renai hired an investigator and sent photos around of the missing girl. The next day, the phone rang. Ahoy hoy, it was the boyfriend again. Look, there's been a bit of a misunderstanding and the child isn't missing at all. Uh-huh. And then he claimed he was confused because he had done too many drugs the night before. Oh.
What?
Okay, can I speak to the daughter then? At first, he was refused. So Renai said that he'd have to file a missing persons report to the police if he couldn't. The boyfriend relented. That night, Renai met with Zolt and brought the police with him. He speaks to the granddaughter and asks her if she's seen Mum. Yeah, I saw her today. Oh, really? Yeah, we went to the park today and we went on the swings. Oh no, the jig was up. So the mum walks into the room sheepishly. It's a miracle. And the story changed again.
It's a miracle.
I'm not dead, but I did injure my leg when I jumped from the ship. And then I immediately flew back to Budapest. Although don't worry about checking my leg because there are no visible marks or injuries.
Dude, that's absolutely
I'm beginning
insane.
to think they weren't even on the boat. Also, it turns out this lady isn't her mum, it's just a neighbor. Eventually, Renee managed to make the pair confess. And then they said, hey, we haven't done anything wrong. We haven't taken any money. And in the end, it looks like there'll be no criminal punishment for the scam.
Still
Because
fraud.
Hungary, a former communist country, has no laws against insurance fraud on the books.
The law firm that never sleeps. Call 1-800-664.
I hope they do now.
Oh, that's a bad idea.
Dude, you must be some kind of... Oh, wow. Yeah, deserved it. But honestly, it's such a horrible thing to do. Trying to scam from a tragedy like this. Try to get money from a tragedy.
Mario, would you teach me some Italian?
Oh, of course! Means get back on board for fuck's sake.
Okay, thanks.
Gregorio De Falco, the naval officer who shouted at Scatino to Vada a bordo caso, became a bit of a national hero overnight in Italy. He, like the rest of the world, expected Scatino to go down with the ship.
That's how, you know, the captain should do.
And when the captain chickened out, De Falco was there to admonish him. And when he stopped answering the radio, he called him on his cell phone to continue putting him on blast. When the captain first reported just a blackout, De Falco didn't believe the story and immediately began preparing a rescue effort, which likely saved several lives.
Hero.
His actions were applauded by most Italians who were tired of their public servants being corrupt and avoiding responsibility.
Brazil.
Accordingly, shirts sporting Vada a bordo caso were being printed by the end of the week, others setting it as their phone's ringtone. But then, in September 2014, without warning, De Falco was transferred to an admin role in the Coast Guard.
An admin role?
He'd been demoted. De Falco said that he had been passed up for promotion.
Was that Bruce Willis with some hair?
Hear what I said, he'd been demoted. De Falco said that he had been passed up for
Looks
promotion,
so young.
that he had also not been told which admin office he was even being transferred to, and
That's
that it all
crazy.
effectively
Why?
cancelled 10 years of his career. De Falco was Tres Furioso. And there was public speculation that it was owing to bad blood between himself and Admiral Delano, his former boss. His status among the public overshadowed his superior in many ways.
Wow.
On the other hand, his boss said, no, it's part of a normal career progression for naval officers and that he must show more maturity and professionalism to advance his career. Now, it's hard to know what...
Dude, that's crazy. Like, I hate it when that happens. That's so unfair. That's not just, man. The dude saved so many lives and then he gets punished because he overshadowed his superior. He got the attention. Ah, man.
What's true in office politics, so let's leave that alone. And anyway, in 2018, DeFalco said buenas noches, ya later, to the Italian Navy to become a politician. In March that year, he was elected to the Italian Senate, serving as a member for Livorno. He still serves there today.
I'm the captain now.
I'm glad he found a different path. Dude, the memes are really good.
The day after the disaster, Schettino was taken into custody by police and underwent questioning. However, it was clear that this would not be a straightforward investigation. So the judge released him under house arrest at his home in Sorrento, a town in Napoli. By July of that year, the house arrest was relaxed and he was allowed within this general area. While under house arrest, he wrote a book with this journalist from Rai magazine.
I
have no idea what it says. I don't speak Italian. But goddammit, he must have some kind of charisma going on, because there's been a lot of speculation in the press that he had an affair with her as well.
Of course he did.
Hold on, I got it. Not content with abandoning his ship, this dude is determined to abandon his wife as well. So, Schettino and 5 others are facing criminal charges. Straight away, everyone lodges a plea bargain with the court, and all of those plea bargains are accepted, except for Schettino's. And the condition of everyone's reduced sentences are that they must provide witness testimony against Schettino.
He touched
They all snitched.
Ciro, Jacob, and Silvia were all given suspended sentences. Roberto and Manrico are able to opt for community service or house arrest. Not a bad deal.
A good deal. Good deal.
And that meant that Schettino was now all on his own.
Dang. So they wanted to punish the captain, throw it all onto the captain. I don't know if I agree with that because, you know, it was the whole team effort. But yeah, the captain should have done better. He should have been a better leader. But they all took a plea deal and they all, you know, pointed fingers and said, that's what happened. And I guess that's how we know what happened in there because of the, you know, the witnesses.
The first officer was the first to give his testimony. On the witness stand, he claimed that Schettino was distracted by his mistress and other guests on the bridge.
I mean, that's the worst time to be distracted. He is close, you know, he's doing like a dangerous maneuver there close to the coast. Why be distracted at that moment? Why not focus on that moment? If he wants to be distracted, you know, do it when autopilot is on or whatever. I don't know. You guys have you do have autopilot, right? In ships?
There was confusion over who was in command. Then it was Jacob's turn. And he said,
why is there no
"Lamau
picture of
XD,"
him?
because he didn't actually bother with his testimony or his reduced sentence. He just fled the country. It took authorities 12 months to eventually track him down on the outskirts of Jakarta. And when they said, "Oi, we still want that witness testimony," he just scarped again. And he hasn't been found since.
Dude.
After that, Ferrarini gave his
control.
testimony, then look, we don't have time to relitigate the whole trial. So let's just go straight to the verdict. Guilty!
How many years?
Schettino was found guilty of multiple manslaughter, causing a shipwreck, abandoning ship, and lying to authorities. He is sentenced to 16 years and 1 month in prison.
Is he still there then?
But wait, there's still the appeals. The appeals trial begins. And the verdict on the appeal? Surprise! Rejected! So Schettino's lawyers appealed again. And the verdict on the final appeal?
Rejected.
Schettino made multiple attempts to secure a plea deal, but was denied by the prosecution each time. The prosecution called for Schettino to be sentenced to 26 years in prison.
26?
Calling the incident a Titanic affair.
Oh, but he got 16.
Schettino was not present. His lawyer stated that he was waiting outside of the jail for the ruling, so that if his plea was rejected, he could immediately start serving his sentence. And with that, 5 years and 4 months after the disaster, he was finally in a cell.
Oh, after 5 years he went to the cell? Refloating the Concordia. He's probably gonna get less for good behavior, right?
The salvage operation was enormous. It took over 2 years and cost an estimated $1.2 billion.
Wow, that's double the price.
In early 2012, they first spent 2 months pumping fuel from the ship's tanks. At the same time, they had to pump seawater in so that the balance wasn't affected and the ship didn't slide around. In early 2013, a platform was built under the ship to prevent it from falling further. Sponsons were then attached to the sides of the ship and cables attached to the underwater platform. The sponsons were then dragged underwater and opened up to allow the ocean to fill them. The ship could then roll over properly. By late 2013, the ship was upright once more.
Dang. So, into 2012, pump fuel, pump water, platform underneath. Dang, what, like, so much work. And definitely the cost of Concordia was high. I hope they, add up all of the money that was spent.
The sponsons were then attached to the side of the ship to help keep it balanced. It now rested partially above water and crews could walk around safely. By July 2014, the water was removed from the sponsons and compressed air was pumped in to lift the ship. And she was ready to cruise again. This time to a port in Genoa. It was a 4-day towing journey to the docks where a 2-year process of dismantling and recycling would begin. That same weekend
managed
of the
to
towing,
recycle it?
Schettino was busy. He was the guest of honor at a white party on an island in the Bay of Naples. He appeared on the front page of a local newspaper,
white party,
flanked
dude.
by 2 of Italy's most eligible bachelorettes.
What is wrong with this guy? I don't trust white parties.
Anyway, so these are the things that I remember from the Cost of Concordia. That's
Was this guy there though?
Maiden of the Sea. And as for you, little fella.
Of course not, right?
Well, it's
He's
time
the one
to
who
return you.
he's the one who stole the
From whence you came.
bell. Such
6
a
quick things. 1. NordVPN, good product, check them out. Number 2, there's a new video on the second channel. You probably didn't see it because it was temporarily restricted. Now it's not. Enjoy. 3, if you've never seen the second channel before, give it a go. It's a different type of content, but we put a lot of production into it. It's not just offcuts. 4, there are a couple of secret channels as well, but I ain't telling you where they are. 5,
'Cause they're
no more
secret.
45-minute videos on the main channel. Back to 10 to 15 minutes and more of them. 6, there's a Q&A coming out next week on incognito mode. It's got a ton of detail that we had to cut for the sake of brevity and will no doubt feature a ton of corrections as well. That's it. Thank you.
Spicy.
spicy. Dude, that was a great video. Well produced, very entertaining. I didn't even see an hour pass by because it was so dynamic, it was so well made. And it's a sad story. It's crazy because that could have been avoided. And there were so many things, so many mistakes, so many errors that were in place, and a lot of shady stuff happening. So I feel like it was inevitable, especially with a horrible captain like that, who already had a track record of doing dumb stuff. Man, I'm actually really angry at him. Sorry about that. How do you guys feel? Let me know in the comments. Hansi says, this is a really good video. Well made, well told, funny editing. Thanks for sharing, Maria. Yeah, thank you so much, Maria, for requesting this. And guys, The reason I'm here full time on YouTube and on Twitch is because of, you know, supporters like Maria, who requested a video, through Buy Me a Coffee. So thank you so much to Maria. And if you want to request a video, go over to Buy Me a Coffee or come over to Twitch to support the channel. Like, you know, on YouTube, subscribe, and yeah, just help out the channel the way you can. Thank you so much. And also go check out the Internet Historian's channel, because that was fantastic. See you guys in the next one. Click over here to request a video. Click over here to see my playlists, educational playlists, I will say. Take care for now. Bye-bye.